vibrating in anxiety and stress and overthinking. So we really want to be mindful, because what happens is the more that we vibrate in a certain energy, it's moving us in a certain direction.
What if the restlessness you feel, the sudden irritations, or the unexplained heaviness aren't random at all? These subtle disturbances can be signs that your energy is under the influence of demonic vibration. It creeps into your mind, body, and surroundings, shaping your thoughts, emotions, and even the people and spaces you attract. This video will guide you through the early warnings most people overlook, revealing how these energies subtly manipulate daily life and what you can do to reclaim clarity and balance. By recognizing these patterns, you open the door to understanding the hidden currents around you, and take the first step toward restoring your personal power and harmony. Shadows lurking within. There are forces around us that do not announce themselves with thunder or flame. They move quietly, slipping between the spaces of thought and feeling, shaping our inner world without drawing attention. This is the essence of what some traditions call demonic vibration, a subtle energy that weaves through the mind, affecting how we react to the simplest moments of life. Most people dismiss the small flickers of unease or the sudden bursts of anger as ordinary stress or mood swings, never realizing that these may be the first signs of something more persistent, more intrusive, more hidden. You may notice a persistent weight pressing on your chest, a nervous energy that seems to swell for no reason. It comes uninvited, lingering after small annoyances, coloring interactions with co-workers, friends, or family. Thoughts may spiral without clear cause, and emotions may flare or vanish without warning. These experiences often feel like internal chaos, yet they are not random. The Eastern understanding of subtle energies suggests that the mind is a network of currents, some luminous, some shadowed. When the shadowed currents gain momentum, they influence perception, making small irritations feel like major crises, and quiet moments feel strangely threatening. Anger often arrives suddenly, sharp and unprovoked. A simple comment, a glance, a sound can ignite an intense reaction that feels foreign, as if the emotion belongs to someone else. Anxiety can hover just beneath awareness, a constant undercurrent shaping choices, disrupting sleep or clouding focus. Even moments of joy can carry a weight, a faint sense that they are fleeting or unearned. The subtle energy moves like water under the surface, invisible yet powerful enough to erode clarity and peace. It whispers through the mind in ways that can feel ordinary until patterns become undeniable. The influence of these vibrations often goes unnoticed because they do not appear as dramatic events. There are no clear signs, no visual markers, only the quiet reshaping of perception. Daily life becomes a mirror of these unseen forces. Simple decisions are colored by hesitation or unease. Conversations carry a hidden tension. Tasks that once felt effortless now seem burdensome. The mind interprets neutral events as threats, and the body responds as if danger is always present. From an Eastern perspective, the mind and its energy are deeply intertwined, and even a small disturbance in subtle currents can manifest across thought, emotion, and action. Recognizing these early signs requires a level of attention that most people rarely give themselves. Awareness begins as noticing the unnoticed, that repeated irritation at minor events is not just frustration, that moments of sudden despair do not need an obvious trigger, that the lingering heaviness is not simply fatigue. Each instance is a signal, a reflection of the subtle currents at work within. Becoming conscious of these shadows is the first step toward understanding how deeply energy influences life. The more these currents remain ignored, the more they shape decisions, relationships, and self-perception. Even in solitude, these vibrations leave traces. The quiet mind, which should feel like a refuge, can become restless. Thoughts return again and again to the same anxieties, the same regrets, the same fears. Sleep may carry unease, dreams twisting familiar landscapes into tense or threatening scenarios. The shadowed energy does not require external validation. It shapes experience internally, making one feel isolated from clarity or certainty. The subtlety of this influence is precisely why it is so effective. Without dramatic signals, the mind can be slowly guided by currents it barely notices. Understanding the nature of these energies offers a lens to interpret what is otherwise dismissed. They are not always literal demons or spirits in the popular sense, but the Eastern concept of subtle energies provides a framework. The mind itself is a conduit, capable of carrying both clarity and shadow, both light and dark currents. Learning to perceive these currents early allows one to trace the origins of unease and anger, to see how the inner shadows begin to shape the world outside. Awareness of these subtle disturbances opens a door. Once recognized, the mind begins to see the threads connecting internal agitation to external behavior. Interactions with others, once thought simple or spontaneous, begin to reveal patterns shaped by unseen energies. Choices, reactions, and moods all start to reflect the undercurrent that flows beneath ordinary consciousness. The shadows within are not yet overwhelming, but they are persistent, quietly asserting their influence, and they invite observation. From this awareness, the next step is to notice how these currents extend beyond the self, how they begin to influence relationships, habits, and environments. The mind, when unsettled, interacts differently with the world, and the ripples of these early shadows move outward in ways that are subtle but undeniable. Unseen chains of influence. Unease that lingers in the mind rarely stays confined there. It seeps into daily actions, shaping decisions, influencing interactions, and quietly tethering a person to patterns that feel unavoidable. What begins as subtle tension gradually forms chains, small behaviors and reactions that reinforce the shadowed energy, making it stronger over time. These chains are invisible at first, almost imperceptible, but they guide thought, emotion, and action in ways that accumulate quietly, leaving their mark on life before one fully notices. Habits become the first vessels of this unseen influence. A small compulsion to respond angrily to irritation, to obsess over minor fears, or to withdraw from others can reinforce the internal vibration, giving it a tangible foothold. Over time, these behaviors become repetitive, cycling back to magnify the unease that first sparked them. In some African traditions, unresolved conflict is considered a source of spiritual contamination, a hidden energy that passes through families, communities, or even entire lineages. When tension is ignored or suppressed, it resonates outward, anchoring negativity in both thought and action, and shaping the way people interact with one another. Relationships act as mirrors for these energetic chains. Someone caught in the pull of invisible patterns may repeatedly attract conflict, misunderstanding, or manipulation. Friends, colleagues, and family members respond to the energy they sense, often unknowingly reflecting the same tension. Over time, interactions that once felt ordinary become charged, a constant reinforcement of inner shadows. Mystic insight on energy resonance and shadow projection explains this dynamic. The vibrations carried within the mind radiate outward, eliciting reactions that mirror the unseen currents. What feels like a string of unfortunate events is often the natural echo of one's own inner state. The environment itself can amplify these invisible ties. Communities and spaces that have carried collective fear or unresolved tension act as reservoirs, intensifying personal vibration. Historical accounts abound of entire villages, towns, or neighborhoods that succumbed to panic or mass hysteria, not solely due to tangible events, but because the fear, suspicion, and discord accumulated within the collective consciousness. The energy of the group became a force that shaped behaviors, often reinforcing destructive habits and magnifying the shadowed currents already present in individuals. In this way, the outer world mirrors and feeds the inner vibration, creating a feedback loop that seems impossible to escape. Even the simplest interactions can reinforce these chains. A minor argument, a critical remark, or a moment of judgment carries more weight when the mind is already attuned to shadowed energy. Each small incident deposits another layer onto the invisible tether, linking thought to emotion and action to consequence. These links grow without fanfare, like threads slowly weaving a net around perception. The subtlety of these connections makes them difficult to detect. Only in reflection do patterns emerge, revealing the scope of influence that invisible energies exert over the everyday. Awareness of this process is essential, though it is rarely automatic. Many mistake these repeated patterns for coincidence, bad luck, or personal weakness. Yet the chains of energy follow consistent rules. Vibration attracts resonance, and resonance strengthens repetition. Observing where discomfort, conflict or compulsion recurs provides insight into which currents are dominant. Recognizing the invisible allows one to start untangling the habits and relationships that amplify these vibrations, even when their effects are deeply entrenched. History provides countless examples of how collective emotion shapes reality. Entire communities have been trapped in cycles of fear and suspicion, where small incidents escalate, habits harden, and interactions feed the same destructive energy. These events illustrate that the invisible is not confined to the individual mind. It resonates through groups, shaping behavior on a much larger scale. By studying these patterns, it becomes evident that the chains of energy are both personal and social, bridging inner experience and outer influence in ways that are subtle, yet powerful. Breaking or redirecting these chains begins with observation and ownership. It requires acknowledging that unseen forces are actively shaping thoughts, habits, and interactions, even when they feel uncontrollable. Once recognized, habitual reactions can be questioned, relationships approached with greater awareness, and environments navigated consciously. The invisible is not a distant force. It is intimately tied to the currents one carries, yet understanding its presence opens a path to transforming the energy before it defines life in its shadowed form. From here, the natural unfolding is to see how these chains touch every aspect of life, particularly in the way others reflect the same energy back. When vibration moves from internal tension to visible expression, the patterns become impossible to ignore. The next step is to explore how the energy of the invisible manifests in relationships, guiding behavior and shaping interactions in ways that both reveal and amplify its presence. The mirror of others. Energy carried within the mind rarely remains hidden. What we hold inside subtly colours the way we perceive and respond to others, shaping relationships in ways that often go unnoticed. A fleeting irritation, a sharp reaction to a minor comment, or repeated tension in conversations can all signal the reflection of inner imbalance. These patterns emerge gradually, but once recognized, they reveal how the vibration we emit attracts mirroring energies in those around us. Carl Jung described projection as the unconscious attribution of internal qualities onto others. When the mind harbors fear, anger, or unresolved tension, these feelings can surface in interactions as though they originate externally. A colleague's impatience may feel magnified, a friend's hesitation interpreted as judgment, a partner's comment read as criticism. In truth, these responses are often echoes of the energy projected outward. The vibration within does not merely exist in isolation. It reaches outward, eliciting reactions that reflect the same unresolved currents. Cycles of conflict and discomfort rarely happen by chance. People repeatedly drawn into similar tensions, relationships that continuously trigger irritation, and recurring arguments often mirror the inner state of vibration. Eastern beliefs in karmic reciprocity provide insight into this phenomenon, suggesting that the energy one sends into the world naturally returns. A mind unsettled by shadowed emotion attracts comparable energy in others, creating a chain where imbalance is reflected, reinforced, and magnified. The resonance between internal energy and external response can feel inevitable, yet it is an extension of personal vibrational patterns. Even subtle cues carry the weight of hidden energy. A glance that lingers too long, a tone that carries unintended sharpness, or a gesture perceived as dismissive can all be amplified by the vibration within. These moments often seem minor, yet they provide critical feedback. Others' reactions frequently mirror unresolved tension, returning reflections of qualities we resist acknowledging. In this sense, relationships act as living mirrors, revealing facets of inner imbalance that would otherwise remain hidden from conscious awareness. The parable of the mirror illustrates this dynamic vividly. A man gazed into a polished mirror and saw not only his physical appearance, but the shadows of his unresolved fears, insecurities, and anger. When he left the mirror, he noticed these same traits appearing in his interactions with others. A friend's sharp words, a co-worker's impatience, and even casual social friction seemed to replicate the shadows he had observed within himself. The mirror revealed that energy carried within the mind inevitably reflects outward, drawing experiences that mirror what has not been fully integrated or acknowledged. Recognizing these patterns requires careful observation. Repeated reactions, persistent conflicts, and feelings of unease often highlight where internal energy remains unresolved. By tracing these reflections back to their source, it becomes possible to discern which aspects of perception are coloured by projection and which are responses to external reality. This awareness is subtle but crucial, as it reveals the threads connecting personal vibration to the behaviour of others, showing how internal imbalance shapes external experience. Social feedback often acts as both a challenge and a guide. Moments of tension or irritation can feel jarring, but they also provide a map of energy in motion. Observing where conflicts recur and how people respond to subtle signals helps identify the areas where inner vibration needs attention. This process is not about assigning blame externally. It is about understanding that the energy within shapes perception and interaction, and that awareness can begin to alter the patterns reflected by others. Relationships, once seen through the lens of mirrored energy, become a tool for insight. The repeated conflicts, misunderstandings, and tension point to areas requiring reflection and adjustment. Shifts in thought, emotion, and response influence the vibration emitted, which in turn changes the feedback received from others. The outer world acts as a living reflection of inner energy, teaching lessons about the subtle currents guiding perception, emotion, and interaction. The mirror of others ultimately prepares the mind for deeper understanding. By seeing how inner vibration manifests in social life, one begins to recognize the ways these energies influence perception, intuition, and the subtler aspects of thought. Awareness of mirrored reflection sets the stage for exploring how these currents whisper within the mind itself, shaping the unseen dimensions of cognition and self-perception. The whisper of the mind. Even when life appears calm, the mind often hums with a quiet undercurrent. Intrusive thoughts emerge without warning, doubts arise in the simplest decisions, and negative self-talk colours perception in subtle ways. For those influenced by demonic vibration, these whispers are persistent, shaping behaviour and reinforcing patterns of unease. Each thought carries energy, and the repeated circulation of worry or criticism strengthens the internal currents that feed anxiety, hesitation, and distraction. Uncertainty begins to infiltrate ordinary choices. What was once routine, a conversation, a task, or even a moment of rest, becomes fraught with internal negotiation. Decisions feel heavier, options are questioned endlessly, and hesitation dominates. Psychological studies on thought patterns indicate that repeated negative thinking reinforces neural pathways associated with indecision and stress. This demonstrates how subtle energy, carried by persistent thoughts, can physically reshape cognition and amplify the influence of dark vibrations. Self-criticism frequently surfaces at unexpected moments. The mind highlights failures or imperfections, magnifying them and projecting them into imagined future consequences. Successes are downplayed, while mistakes are exaggerated. The energy behind these thoughts is not neutral. It carries a shadowed quality that subtly guides perception and amplifies fear. Each recurrence strengthens the internal feedback loop, making the vibration more difficult to recognize or resist. Obsessive attention to imagined risks or regrets becomes a pattern. The mind repeatedly returns to scenarios that may never occur, replaying fears and old errors. These cycles influence behavior beyond conscious awareness, altering reactions in conversations, work, and personal projects. The repeated focus on perceived threats increases tension, solidifying the very patterns that sustain demonic vibration. These mental whispers also distort the perception of time and priority. Tasks that once seemed manageable now feel overwhelming, and moments of rest are shadowed by a persistent sense of urgency. Decisions, whether about speech, action, or focus, are overanalyzed, and hesitation becomes habitual. The subtle influence of these thought patterns aligns mental, emotional, and behavioral currents, quietly shaping daily life in ways that reinforce inner unrest. The mind's focus often narrows under the weight of persistent intrusive thoughts. What was once a flexible awareness becomes rigid, prioritizing perceived threats over clarity and creativity. Tasks that require open thinking or emotional balance are increasingly difficult, and even moments of inspiration can be overshadowed by the undercurrent of doubt. This narrowing reinforces the energy patterns that sustain demonic vibration, subtly shaping both thought and action without overt awareness. Emotional reactivity becomes heightened as mental whispers influence interpretation. Small slights feel amplified, disappointments linger longer, and joy is tempered by a sense of caution or unease. The mind and heart move in tandem, each thought carrying emotional weight, creating a resonance that colours experience continuously. Over time, this reinforces the internal energy, making the cycle of intrusive thought and emotional disturbance more entrenched. Sleep often becomes a reflection of this inner turbulence. Dreams carry fragments of anxiety, unresolved tensions, or imagined conflicts. Waking thoughts replay these patterns, creating a seamless continuation of the mental loop. The mind is rarely at rest, and the energy embedded in these persistent thoughts begins to manifest physically, subtly affecting posture, breathing, and overall vitality. The connection between mental vibration and bodily experience demonstrates how subtle internal disturbances ripple outward, influencing both action and sensation. Even social interactions are affected. Subtle anxiety or doubt influences tone, expression, and responsiveness, altering how others react. Misunderstandings are amplified, minor irritations feel significant, and feedback from the environment reinforces the original vibration. In this way, internal whispers guide not only perception, but also the dynamics of interaction, creating a cycle where energy moves between mind and external reality, continuously reshaping experience. Observation provides a path toward awareness. By noticing recurring intrusive thoughts, repeated doubts, or harsh self-talk, one can begin to trace the source of mental disturbance. Recognizing these patterns interrupts the feedback loop, allowing subtle adjustments in thought and intention to shift the internal energy. Even minor shifts can gradually reduce the influence of demonic vibration, restoring clarity and easing the strain on cognition, emotion, and behavior. The persistent hum of the mind, once acknowledged, also reveals the bridge between mental and physical experience. Tension held in thought begins to manifest in fatigue, restlessness, or muscular tightness. Each intrusive whisper leaves a subtle trace, signaling that energy alignment is incomplete. Paying attention to these signs lays the foundation for deeper work on restoring equilibrium, preparing the way for the body itself to speak more clearly about the state of inner vibration. The body speaks. The body often reveals truths the mind cannot see. Subtle tension, unexplained fatigue, or lingering discomfort can be signs that energy within is misaligned. When mental whispers and intrusive thoughts dominate, the body absorbs the strain, manifesting it as tight muscles, headaches, or an overall sense of heaviness. These sensations are not mere coincidences. They reflect how internal energetic disturbance translates into physical experience, bridging the unseen currents of thought and emotion with the tangible reality of the body. Pain and discomfort frequently appear in areas connected to prolonged stress or unresolved emotion. The shoulders may carry burdens of worry, the chest may tighten with persistent anxiety, and the gut may churn under unacknowledged fear. Eastern belief in chakras suggests that each energy center corresponds to specific aspects of emotional and spiritual health. Blockages or imbalances in these centers can produce both emotional turbulence and physical symptoms, signaling that energy is stagnating or corrupted in ways that impact overall vitality. No matter how small, persistent sensations command notice. A subtle stiffness in the neck, a dull tension in the lower back, or an unrelenting fatigue can indicate the silent influence of shadowed energy. The body functions as a mirror, reflecting patterns of thought and vibration that have gone unexamined. When these signals are ignored, the energy imbalance grows, reinforcing cycles of mental doubt, negative self-talk, and emotional strain, all of which were explored in the previous chapter. The rhythm of the body is also affected. Heart rate, breathing patterns, and subtle shifts in posture often respond unconsciously to internal energy. A shallow breath or a clenched jaw may signal tension carried from thought into form. Over time, these unconscious physical patterns become habitual, creating a feedback loop where energy stagnates further. The body is not merely a passive recipient, but an active participant in sustaining the vibration, translating subtle currents into tangible experience. Fatigue and illness frequently manifest without a clear cause. Sleep may feel insufficient, energy may drain rapidly during ordinary activity, and minor illnesses can persist longer than expected. These physical signs are often misattributed to external causes, yet they often trace back to energetic disruption. Awareness of these signals allows one to begin untangling the link between internal disturbance and physical manifestation, revealing how subtle vibrations influence not just thought, but the very fabric of the body's vitality. Concentration and decision-making can be swayed by the slightest changes in energy, turning ordinary tasks into exhausting ones. Persistent low-level tension can erode resilience, leaving the body and mind more vulnerable to stressors. By paying attention to these signs, one begins to recognize the interconnectedness of energy, thought, and bodily function, deepening awareness of how demonic vibration subtly shapes experience. Attention to bodily sensation also clarifies how energy flows or fails to flow. Eastern teachings emphasize that chakras and energy channels are responsible for vitality and balance. When energy is blocked, the body experiences stress, and emotional or mental patterns are amplified. By observing tension, discomfort, or fatigue, a person can locate areas of blockage and begin to restore flow, whether through meditation, breathwork, movement, or focused awareness. The body becomes both guide and messenger, pointing to where shadowed currents persist. The connection between mind and body is inseparable. Mental unease shapes physical tension, while physical discomfort reinforces mental anxiety. The interplay creates a cycle in which thought, emotion, and bodily sensation feed one another. Each unnoticed pattern strengthens demonic vibration, embedding the energy more deeply in both mind and form. Becoming attentive to these subtle messages opens a path to recognizing where intervention is necessary, providing a bridge from internal awareness to engagement with the environment. The very spaces we occupy influence the energy within our bodies. Rooms, objects, and people carry their own vibration, which can either harmonize with or disrupt our own. Fatigue or unease may intensify in environments that amplify shadowed energy, while clear, calm spaces provide subtle relief. Understanding that the body responds not only to internal currents, but also to external energetic influences prepares one to observe the world with greater discernment. Listening to the body reveals patterns that words alone cannot capture. Pain, tension, and fatigue are signs, subtle but persistent, that shadowed energy is present. Recognizing these manifestations fosters a deeper awareness of how energy shapes life at both internal and external levels. As attention to the body grows, it naturally leads to noticing how the spaces and objects around us can reflect or reinforce these energies, setting the stage for the next exploration. The energy around you. The spaces we inhabit carry more than just objects and memories, they carry energy. Some rooms feel instantly heavy or uncomfortable, while others feel light and expansive. Subtle signals like sudden cold spots, inexplicable tension, or an uneasy feeling in a corner of a home often indicate that the energy within that space has been influenced by shadowed vibrations. These environmental cues are rarely coincidental. They reflect how the unseen currents of thought, emotion, and spiritual disturbance extend outward, shaping surroundings just as they shape the body and mind. Electronic devices provide another lens into energetic interference. Malfunctions, unexpected shutdowns, or unusual behavior in computers and phones sometimes coincide with spaces charged by low vibration. While technology has mechanical explanations, repeated patterns across different contexts suggest that energy can interact with and subtly disrupt physical systems. Observing these occurrences encourages awareness that energy is not confined within oneself. It resonates outward, influencing both animate and inanimate elements in the environment. Certain areas of a home or workspace tend to accumulate tension. A neglected room, a cluttered corner, or a place where repeated arguments have occurred can hold residual energy that feels oppressive. African spiritual practices emphasize cleansing spaces to remove these lingering influences, using smoke, water, or ritualized gestures to restore harmony. Such traditions acknowledge that energy lingers beyond intention, and that actively clearing spaces is necessary to prevent the amplification of shadowed vibrations. Human presence also impacts environmental energy. When someone carrying tension or unresolved shadowed emotion enters a space, the energy of the room shifts. This subtle influence is often felt as heaviness, discomfort, or irritability without an obvious cause. Mystic practices of energy shielding and purification teach techniques to protect and cleanse one's immediate surroundings, demonstrating that awareness and intentionality can prevent external spaces from exacerbating inner imbalance. Sensory cues often serve as warnings. Unexplained drafts, flickering lights, or sudden shifts in temperature can create a sense of unease, signaling that energy within a space is misaligned. Paying attention to these signals allows one to begin discerning between physical anomalies and vibrational disturbances. Recognizing the difference provides an opportunity to act consciously, restoring balance both internally and externally. The energy of objects cannot be overlooked. Items that have been part of conflict, trauma, or shadowed emotion may retain subtle vibration. Even clothing, furniture, or personal belongings can carry energetic residue that affects perception and mood. By consciously assessing and cleansing these objects, one can reduce the amplification of low vibration in daily life, reinforcing a healthier energetic environment. Interactions with others also leave traces in shared spaces. Emotional discharge, anger, or fear from one person can linger, influencing the atmosphere long after they have left. Awareness of this phenomenon emphasizes the importance of spiritual hygiene, where intentional practices maintain clarity and prevent the accumulation of shadowed energy. Mystic and African traditions converge in their guidance. Personal responsibility and conscious cleansing shape the quality of both the self and the surroundings. Collective energy also accumulates over time. Spaces where multiple people have expressed tension, fear, or anger, such as workplaces, schools, or homes with repeated conflict, tend to retain these vibrations in ways that influence everyone who enters. Even without direct interaction, one can sense the lingering heaviness, which subtly affects mood, focus, and physical energy. Being mindful of these accumulations allows for intentional intervention, preventing repeated patterns from taking root. Ritual and conscious attention offer powerful remedies. Simple practices like opening windows using cleansing smoke, sound, or light, or performing mindful gestures of clearing can shift stagnant energy. The act of intentional focus communicates to both mind and space that balance and clarity are being restored. Over time, these practices cultivate an environment that supports vitality, mental clarity, and emotional equilibrium, reinforcing the continuous interplay between external surroundings and inner energy. Daily practices, however minor, affect the energetic tone of our surroundings. Regular cleaning, organizing, and mindful placement of objects affect the flow of energy, while neglect or unconscious accumulation of clutter may amplify shadowed currents. Space is both a reflection and a contributor to the inner state, reinforcing the continuous interplay between mind, body, and surroundings. Awareness of these dynamics allows one to approach the environment not passively, but as an extension of personal energy. By noticing the energy surrounding you, you are led back to reflect on yourself. When spaces feel oppressive or heavy, it is often a mirror of unresolved, shadowed vibration within. Observing and tending to the environment encourages introspection on personal habits, thought patterns, and emotional energy. By integrating space clearing with conscious self-awareness, one begins to restore alignment, bridging the outer world and inner life in a continuous feedback loop. The call of transformation. Awareness of energy is the first step toward transformation. The subtle signs in the mind, body, and environment, once recognized, offer insight rather than fear. Each sensation of tension, moment of doubt, or oppressive space is an invitation to examine what has been overlooked. These signals, when approached with intention, can illuminate the patterns that keep one tethered to low vibration, offering a path to realignment and renewal. The process begins with introspection, observing thoughts without judgment, noticing the body's responses, and reflecting on interactions with the environment create a foundation for change. Eastern meditation practices guide this process, providing techniques to shift focus, balance energy, and release stagnant or shadowed currents. Through consistent attention, the mind and body gradually attune to higher vibration, allowing clarity to emerge and subtle energy to flow more freely. Transformation also requires courage. Recognizing that internal patterns and environmental energies influence perception and well-being can be unsettling. Yet, this awareness is empowering, revealing that one holds the agency to alter the currents of life. Just as the phoenix rises from ashes, breaking free from the remnants of past trials, a person who acknowledges and works with these energies can reclaim harmony, strength, and purpose. Each conscious act of alignment is a small rebirth, creating space for renewed vitality and intention. Lifestyle choices reinforce this transformation. Simple habits such as mindful breathing, conscious movement, and intentional clearing of spaces help maintain energy balance. The quality of relationships, the clarity of thought, and the care given to physical and emotional health all contribute to sustaining higher vibration. When these elements are cultivated, the internal and external worlds resonate more harmoniously, reducing the influence of disruptive energy and fostering resilience. Daily rituals anchor transformation in the present moment. Waking with intentional focus, setting clear intentions for the day, and taking moments to pause and observe one's energy cultivates a consistent connection to higher vibration. These small, repeated actions build momentum, gradually rewiring thought patterns and strengthening alignment across mind, body, and environment. Nutrition, movement, and rest also influence energetic balance. Consuming wholesome foods, engaging in mindful physical activity, and honoring the body's need for restorative sleep support, the subtle currents that meditation and reflection aim to harmonize. Ignoring these aspects can create friction, where physical fatigue or imbalance undermines spiritual and mental efforts, making conscious energy management more challenging. Community and relationships act as both mirrors and supports. Surrounding oneself with individuals who respect personal boundaries and share aligned intentions amplifies a higher vibration. At the same time, observing interactions that trigger shadowed responses provides insight into unresolved energy, offering growth opportunities. By integrating conscious social engagement, one reinforces the lessons of introspection and environmental awareness, creating a holistic approach to transformation. Reflection on daily life is crucial. Moments of irritation, fatigue, or unease often indicate areas where energy has been mismanaged or overlooked. Rather than dismissing these signals, acknowledging them provides an opportunity to adjust routines, focus attention, and reset intention. Meditation, journaling, or simply observing one's environment with care can reveal patterns that were previously hidden, guiding decisions and interactions toward alignment with higher vibration. The environment becomes an ally in transformation. Spaces that once felt heavy or oppressive can be reshaped through attention, cleansing practices, and the conscious placement of objects. By combining internal awareness with external action, one bridges mind, body, and surroundings. The process emphasizes that energy is dynamic, and through intentional effort, the resonance of both self and space can be lifted. This connection between inner and outer transformation reinforces personal responsibility and the ongoing nature of spiritual growth. Persistence deepens the effect. Transformation is rarely instantaneous, but repeated attention to thought, sensation, and environment strengthens alignment. Each moment of observation, each act of clearing, and each choice to shift focus contribute to the gradual dissolution of low vibration. Over time, these efforts accumulate, creating a foundation for sustained clarity, resilience, and spiritual empowerment. Ultimately, transformation reframes demonic vibration not merely as a warning, but as a catalyst. The recognition of shadowed energy illuminates the areas of life most in need of care, offering a roadmap to intentional growth. By engaging with these currents consciously, one cultivates the capacity to rise above patterns that once held sway, just as the phoenix emerges renewed from its ashes, stronger and aligned with higher purpose. Walking the path of light. Sustaining high vibration is an ongoing practice. Even after clearing mental, physical, and environmental influences, vigilance remains essential. Energies continually circulate, and life's challenges can test awareness and resilience. By observing subtle shifts in thought, emotion, and bodily sensation, one maintains a connection to higher vibration, noticing disturbances before they grow. The path of light is not a destination but a continuous journey of attention, intention, and conscious alignment. This vigilance allows one to notice minor energetic shifts before they escalate, creating opportunities for timely adjustment. By cultivating consistent awareness, each moment becomes a chance to reinforce clarity and strengthen connection to a higher vibration. Daily mindfulness serves as the foundation of this practice. Moments of reflection, meditation, or mindful breathing help integrate lessons learned from prior experiences with shadowed energy. Mystic insight emphasizes that lifelong energetic discipline is not about perfection, but consistency, cultivating an inner attunement that recognizes and redirects low vibration as it arises. small acts of attention accumulate over time, creating a foundation of sustained clarity, emotional stability, and spiritual balance. On this journey, the presence of community and guidance is indispensable. Learning from mentors, engaging with aligned individuals, and sharing insights strengthen understanding and reinforce vigilance. Mystic traditions note that even the most disciplined practitioner benefits from reflection within a supportive environment. Observing how one's energy interacts with others continues to offer feedback, revealing areas that need attention or adjustment in the ongoing work of energetic maintenance. Integration extends beyond structured practices. Daily choices, from the words we speak to the spaces we occupy, either reinforce high vibration or allow shadowed energy to creep in. By remaining conscious of habits, relationships, and environmental cues, one creates a living awareness that naturally wards off demonic vibration. This mindfulness is both preventative and restorative, cultivating resilience and maintaining harmony in every facet of life. When energy falters, the body communicates through delicate, persistent signals. Fatigue, tension, or minor discomfort often appear before conscious awareness of the imbalance. By honoring these signals, one engages in proactive, energetic care. Mystic insight emphasizes that attending to the body, emotions, and thought patterns in an integrated way strengthens the feedback loop, ensuring that energy remains clear, vital, and aligned. Energetic boundaries are a crucial aspect of maintaining clarity. Setting intentions before entering new spaces, consciously releasing residual tension at the end of each day, and visualizing protective energy fields create a buffer against negative influence. These practices help prevent absorption of external low vibrations, allowing one to move through life with awareness and equilibrium. Long-term alignment is strengthened through subtle daily practices. Simple habits such as mindful pauses between tasks, periodic breath awareness, and intentional observation of emotional responses create a continuous thread of attention. Over time, these small actions accumulate, strengthening energetic resilience and creating a natural immunity against recurrent low vibration patterns. Engaging with nature further supports energetic discipline. Time spent observing natural rhythms, walking barefoot on the earth, or connecting with quiet, undisturbed spaces helps reset and harmonize subtle energy. Mystic insight emphasizes that aligning with these natural flows replenishes vitality, reinforces inner balance, and sustains the clarity needed to maintain high vibration in more challenging environments. Alongside vigilance, reflection plays a crucial role. Taking moments to observe the flow of energy, acknowledge growth, and note areas of recurring challenge fosters humility and self-awareness. Lifelong energetic discipline does not demand rigidity. It requires curiosity, patience, and the willingness to adjust when subtle disturbances arise. Each observation is an opportunity to recalibrate and strengthen alignment, reinforcing the internal and external resonance of one's vibration. Difficulties and setbacks as well are steps along the path. Encounters with shadowed energy, whether from others, the environment, or one's own mind, are invitations to refine awareness and reinforce personal practice. Mystic insight teaches that resilience emerges not from avoiding difficulty, but from responding with clarity and intention. Each choice to maintain high vibration strengthens the foundation for future growth, allowing one to navigate life's currents without being carried by low energy. At its core, traversing the path of light is about cultivating empowerment through persistent focus. The practices, insights, and reflections cultivated along the journey equip one to recognize and redirect negative influence, sustain balance, and integrate lessons into daily living. Life's energies are ever-present and mutable, but with consistent discipline and mindful observation, one can maintain harmony, radiate clarity, and carry forward the awareness that transformation is an ongoing living process. Thanks for joining this journey. Subscribe to stay connected and share your experiences in the comments. Let's continue raising our vibration together.